I believe we're live. Hi, everybody. I'm here with my good friend, Lance Shuttler, who is the CEO of some very profound companies. And we like to talk about all sorts of things when we come together. And I have some things I want to share in a PowerPoint about this particular eclipse energy. And he's got some things to say about it. And we're going to do some share screens and have some imagery that you can follow along with. And yeah, we're talking about the positive changes we can make. We're talking about DNA. We're talking about epigenetics, the 13th sign, and the significance of this new moon and solar eclipse energy. And yeah, it's actually conjunct Mercury. And the power of eclipses lasts for about 6 months. So when we put major focus and intent on days like today, it definitely carries over. We want to check in and be consistent, though, and make sure that we're renewing or restating some things to keep the flow alive, because ultimately it's about our creative energy. It's about our capacity to manifest with our thoughts and with our words. And this assault on our minds and our thinking processes, we need to overturn. And this is a really, really powerful time to get a grip on all that and to change just the trajectory of all this. And we are the powerful beings that can do it. They just don't want us to know it, but we know it. And you guys know it. And so we're going to bring attention to that. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today, Lance.
Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate being here. This is awesome. I'm looking forward to this, and I know you are too. We're going to talk about a lot of awesome things and just get good information out there.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, there's so much more to share about you than just your connection with, you know, these companies that you and I discuss a lot. Do you want to say just a few more words about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. So I studied health science at Iowa, and I've really always been interested in health and wellness, but particularly about 10 years ago, I started learning about astrology and listening to another wonderful astrologer named Laura, and then also following your work about 10 years ago, and just started learning a lot of, you know, really interesting things and putting together how astrology can relate to health and wellness and nutrition and how it obviously affects our bodies. And so, you know, when we're going through different astrological periods, different nutrients can be beneficial for us, depending on what's happening.
Yes, yes. And we've talked about this before, bringing together medical astrology information with education about some of these, I wouldn't say products, but like just an education about things like mushrooms that you happen to like distribute, highest quality, highest level. But I mean, it's really to get more about the education as well. I'll be talking about the medical astrology part, and he's going to bring up an article. And the correlations are amazing. And of course, there's going to be correlations between zodiac signs and our organs, our endocrine system, our nervous system, I mean, everything. And to understand the different aspects that are taking place during this particular window, and what is really, really needed in the here and now, it's really good to put the two together. And yeah, so I'll get my share screen up here, and we're gonna kind of go back and forth. Okay. All right, everybody. This is just a quick picture of the astrological aspects that we've been dealing with this last week. But here we are already at Friday. And if you see Friday, the new moon total solar eclipse. And it's right near the South Node, Sagittarian South Node. And the South Node has a lot to do with what we're reflecting on, what we're leaving behind, and what kind of foundation we've been kind of resting upon as we step into the North Node and integrate the North Node. Ultimately, it's about integration of polarity. And so the whole nodal axis that is impacted when the moons interact to create these eclipses has been South Node Sagittarius, North Node Gemini. And we're moving into a new cycle towards the end of the year, where it's going to be a south node Scorpio and a north node Taurus. So integration of polarity means that the qualities become more merged. And in that merging, we're able to really upgrade. And if we even step away from understanding the zodiac and we look at the elementals, we can, just understand our DNA as it relates to the nucleic acids and the elements and how we are elemental beings. So it's so interesting, and of course, how that relates to our physical body and our health. And if anything's repressed, if anything's blocked, the body unconscious, in its unconscious state, produces symptoms. And when we really tune into what the symptoms are and we really dialogue with it and we begin to understand it, we can notice the patterning or the thought forms or belief systems that might be contributing to poor health. Ultimately, our truth frequency is going to benefit our physical body. So when we live in our truth and we take good care of our physical vessel and we put the right things in our body, this to me is the great breakthrough and what the Great Awakening is all about, to really begin to understand ourselves and what we're capable of. So I'm going to, kind of go into all that. But what's really lit up right now is Mercury. So things related to the mental body, communication. So any kind of blockages in your throat chakra, you might notice as you try and communicate with people. You might feel like you're having a hard time sharing what you want to share, or you might sink into thought forms that might not really serve what you want to manifest or create. So doing that kind of extra work, taking the extra time out to clear your mind and focus it on your intentions, your goals, your visions, is an incredibly important thing to do today. I mean, incredibly important thing. It's very important to avoid arguments or just low vibe mental things. We really, really want to illuminate the magician archetype. And the magician can manifest reality based in thought forms and words that are spoken. I think you guys saw the interview I did lately with Miracle, who is able to heal his spine and not have any of the metals in his spine. So that's the power we can hold of our minds. We have to gain self-mastery over our mental bodies, especially in the face of so many psychological operations and constant bombardment of that. So what would you like to share? Any thoughts on that, Seth? Any thoughts on that, Lance?
Yeah. So, going to what you're saying about DNA, Laura, and, obviously our DNA is undergoing changes, both in beneficial ways and, depending on our environment and what we're taking in and all that stuff, the epigenetics of it, that's how the outside events affect us on a DNA level. But something that's very, very interesting. So I wrote this article, and we'll put this, Laura, I'm going to put this in the chat. And then if you want, you can send that in the chat in YouTube, because then people can listen or open it up simultaneously.
Yes. I'll be sure to put it in the description.
Yeah.
And we can pin it in the comments. It's really great. Wow. It looks really cool.
Yeah, thank you. So us humans, we actually share more in common DNA-wise with mushrooms than we do with plants. And so this is very interesting concept. So us humans share about 50% in relation to mushrooms and about 10% with plants. So these mushrooms have co-evolved with us to be very beneficial for us. But one thing specifically, and touching on, this whole concept and this theme of this eclipse, with it being the sun and Mercury and, the mind illuminating with the light and, just bringing newness into one's life, is the process of neurogenesis, or the creation of new neurons and the repairing of damaged neurons. And this helps us to stabilize our nervous system, because what's happening is we're basically strengthening the connections between the neurons, and we're cementing into place, new habits, new thought forms, just things that we want new in our life. So, this lion's mane mushroom is a phenomenal mushroom found in nature that really upregulates the production of this protein called nerve growth factor, which is this right here. And that is the compound that actually creates the neurogenesis in the nervous system. So new neurons are created, new synapses, dendrites can connect and, share information. And so this is what's happening. So this lion's mane, it's a phenomenal food. It's a revered mushroom that the monks used for, or have been using for millennia to create nerves of steel in the memory of a lion. And they use it before they meditate because they know what it does to the nervous system. So just a very interesting concept. I'll come back to this and talk about it just a touch more, but Laura, please continue. Mute.
Yeah. I like how it said nerves of steel and the memory of a lion. And that's really great. And okay, let me just get the share screen up here. So the nutritional support is incredibly important because, I mean, we've been just exposed to so much toxicity our whole lives and alteration of our food. And it's just so important to detox and put the right stuff in our body so that really nature can work its magic more efficiently, which is helping us to upgrade, helping us to flow with synchronicities and just live in great strength. Health is everything right now. And the activations coming through and the different alignments taking place, we need kind of an optimal physical vessel to be able to integrate it into our cells, into everything. So if the physical body is not optimal, it's very easy for those energies to not get integrated. And the AI signals, can target an unhealthy state of being and an unempowered mind that is just following whatever narrative. And I know you guys can relate, and it's been a pretty tough week. Oh my gosh. And, sometimes it's not just about what we're going through internally or it's anything personal. I mean, feeling into what the collective is going through, and just all these different tactics being used, incredibly, difficult. And I know we're all having our own version of that challenge. Anyway, so this is a slide I've shared before. It's good to come back and pause the show so that you can really read this and look at each one. And there might be some physical symptoms that you're dealing with that relate to some stuff that you know about your astrological chart. And I actually do Zoom calls for subscribers and I work with their charts. And you can find that info out on my website. But here we are. We've had a Gemini North Node. I'm going to talk about the Gemini North Node. This is the last time we're going to experience an eclipse energy with these nodes being highlighted. There's going to be a full moon in Gemini mid-month, and it's going to be incredibly powerful. And it's actually going to be in 1 degree of the galactic center. So I will make sure to do another video to make sure you've got as much info about that as possible, because I mean, when we're talking galactic center, we're talking, major flow of really high vibe energies that will really help us to overcome all sorts of things. So, there's the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental, and it all relates to the elements, and our signs and the planetary alignments can reveal a lot. Okay. So the Uranus energy I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but that's Aquarius, ankles, lower limb, circulatory system. That's been receiving a squared aspect from Saturn. Squared aspects means challenge, and it can be like energy blockages, or, it also rules tyranny and enslavement. So that's the lower level of Saturn. We're learning to get a grip on that. The highest octave of Saturn is self-mastery. So because Saturn rules the law of structure, we want this physical vessel as our structure to be able to contain our truth frequency, our multidimensional awareness, and our dreams and visions that can circulate through our system and actually manifest it into the outer world. The squared aspect that we're experiencing is trying to disrupt that. So the North Node being in Gemini is one way that they disrupt this. Gemini is all about communication. It rules the shoulders, arms, hands, upper ribs, lungs, trachea, bronchi, capillaries, breath, oxygenation of blood. So if this is the growth period, if this is something we need to step into, which means that we are advancing ourselves in ways we communicate with one another, that might be that you've written a book, or you're starting a channel, or you're speaking more openly about what you have come to understand and know. This is what has been important for us as a humanity, to really activate our creative powers and share truth and get to a healthy place with all that. So it's been targeted, as we know, with the masking, with the censorship, and it's been very, very difficult to step into that North Node. And because of this block, I feel it sort of creates the symptoms, and it is all in the same kind of package, or it all kind of contributes. Because we know that it's not very easy to breathe deep breaths when you got a mask on. Oxygenation of blood has been another symptom of this virus, but a lot of the different so-called solutions seem to add more problems than it's worth. But a way to overcome some of this stuff is to look at the higher octave. Okay, so if these areas of us are being targeted, what can we do to offset it? Well, we certainly will not ever be quiet. Nothing can really ever shut us down. And then some people are clearing out programmings and where they communicate mind viruses, where they're not communicating from authenticity. So there's a lot of that kind of work and soul growth that we've been going through as a humanity. And the Sagittarian energy has been a south node, the new moon's activating that. So you can see what that rules: hips, thighs, femur, ilium, coccygeal, I know I'm saying that wrong, vertebrae, sacral region, sciatic nerves. Okay, so people are very familiar with what the qualities of each sign are. Sagittarius connects with our wisdom body, expansion, positivity, adventure, travel, philosophy. So if there's blocks in our ability to access that, you might notice these kind of symptoms show up in these particular areas of your body. And that's kind of how it works. So with the sun, and Mercury and the whole magician archetype, and the fact that we're still dealing with this nodal axis, it's very important that we treat this part of our body. And a big thing I feel is definitely the mushroom supplements, anticoagulant type things like nattokinase, things that will just help this part of the body. And I would say the mushrooms are like of the highest caliber, because like Lance just said, our DNA has more of a connection with mushrooms more than plants. And we need to get over this hump in this window period of 𝗑𝗨𝗃 to really get this upgrade, to really stand in alignment so that our DNA can begin to switch on, because that's what's also being targeted, obviously, right? So anyway, it's just important to get in touch with your body. We're here to learn about ourselves. We're here to grow. We're here to transform. And physical symptoms should bring us closer to ourselves versus further away by giving our power to somebody else. So we don't need to fear physical symptoms. The more we get to know ourselves, the more we get to know the patternings behind some of these discomforts, we can heal it from something that makes more sense, like the energy patterns, maybe an ancestral pattern, maybe a programming you adopted, maybe a trauma you haven't sorted out. So anyway, it's just good to look at. Yeah, just if you feel, you've gone through some of the, shortness of breath, or have experienced any blood clots, really, really work on clearing the 4th and 5th chakra, and, speak your truth and take your power back. This is what it's all about. So what are your thoughts? Let me just get this off the screen here.
Yeah, no problem, Laura. So, okay, you were talking about, the ways that we're being, attacked in a lot of ways, and the nervous system is definitely like takes the brunt of it, because that's where the electricity is flowing through the body, and that's how we're picking up on all the signals, both beneficial ones and harmful ones. So, strengthening the nervous system is of utmost importance, and there's so many things a person can do. Breathing practices, grounding, earthing, getting sunshine for sure. Eating the right foods, and then taking in certain herbs and nutrients. And like we were talking about, this lion's mane mushroom, I've been using this stuff for 10 years, and I am, all in on it because of how powerful it is. And I've suggested it to many, many people, and many of those people have reported back that they actually felt benefits to it. And I think that this is just one of the biggest things that we can focus on right now, which is neurogenesis and strengthening that nervous system. But you were talking about, speaking from the heart and speaking truth a little bit ago. And this is, relates in my view to reishi mushroom, which is known as the mushroom of immortality. And you're talking about circulation and the blood. Reishi is a master adaptogen, and it's very well known that it's a excellent tonic for the cardiovascular system and the heart. There's multiple reasons it's doing that, but it is also upregulating the production of this nerve growth factor. So nerve growth factor, think of it as like miracle grow for the brain and the nerves. Like it's helping to just kind of connect that nervous system and strengthen it so that it can do everything that it wants. So,
this is so huge because the cognitive decline with all this kind of dark weaponry and just the whole concept of even zombie. I mean, we got to keep our brains healthy. Sorry, keep going though.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Exactly, because there's just so much being thrown at us, and the process of neurogenesis, creating new neurons, it's always happening, but it's always in flux, so it depends what we're doing throughout the day and what our environment's like, the foods that we're taking in, the thoughts, all of it. We were talking about this earlier, nerves of steel and memory of a lion. I mean, it's powerful stuff. And it's just one of those things that the doctrine of signature shows that these like tentacle-like things coming off this mushroom is just so incredible for these synapses and the dendrites within the brain and nervous system. So I love this. And I think about it as using this right now as a way to kind of anchor in and set in stone or cement into your nervous system what you want to do. So this is a new moon solar eclipse, and we should all put out big intentions of what we want in our lives and in the world around us. But doing this in a way where we're then cementing those things in to our nervous system is, I think, a really cool sort of like alchemical practice where, we're taking something non-physical, the thoughts and the mind, and we're trying to wire that in and cement that into the physical, into our physical bodies. So foods and herbs actually help speed up that process. And, just real quick, what this process looks like, this is very intuitive. It's not anything mind-blowing. I mean, we've seen photos of this, but, when a neural stem cell is here, basically it can go through a lot of different stages to get to this point, ideally, where it's branched out like a tree. And you can tell that's a very healthy neuronal stem cell. But negative thoughts, not eating well, like going through being in stressful environments, it's not that it's a bad thing, like you and I've talked about, Laura. It's just that it can like slow down this process. And again, that's not a bad thing per se. It's just that, ideally we all want to be happy and healthy and keep growing as much as we can with all this stuff. So, just anything someone can do, even if it's something small, that's one step forward, and that's always progress. So, these products that we offer, these mushrooms, like this is one of our best selling products because people know about the mushrooms. They know about how it relates to DNA. They know that it's so beneficial for so many different systems in the body. And the science is overwhelmingly clear that it really does help us. But this product here, is something that we offer, and these links right here are also Laura's links. So she'll get credit if you click on these and purchase them. So this is what the product looks like.
That's a really fair price. Wow.
Yeah. We definitely do our best to make sure that things are as best a price as possible for the customer, because we're customers too for companies, and we know how it feels to be treated well with that stuff.
And I bet for traumatic brain injury or anybody who's recovering from something like that, this would be enormously beneficial as well and really accelerate the process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had a concussion several years ago, and it wasn't anything major, but it was definitely a concussion, and I broke a bone in my face, and I was taking lion's mane beforehand, and I really amped up on it afterwards. And it's hard to say how much quicker it made my concussion better, but I definitely know that it did, because it's stimulating this neurogenic process of creating these new neurons and strengthening the connection between the existing ones.
Cool.
So this process of neurogenesis, like we talked about, it goes through different stages, but one of the stages that's so important for us is sleep. And this is like sort of the survival or an enrichment phase, where it's like we do all this learning and all these activities during the day, and we're stressing our nervous system in a good way. And when we rest and sleep, we need that time. The nervous system needs that time to repair and grow. And this is actually when the process of neurogenesis is taking place, is when we're sleeping. This is when these new neurons are strengthened or are grown, and this is when the existing neurons can strengthen their connection.
Very cool.
Yeah, so Laura, I'll let you take over at this point now too.
Okay, thanks. Very fascinating. And it's like the solutions are here. If we could all just make the choices to embody the solutions, we would see a lot of change happen. And this is another important thing about the window, is eclipses are associated with profound change. So we're talking about new beginnings and positive changes, because it's a new moon, and a new moon is all about seed planting. And again, if you look at the bottom, you'll see 𝗑𝗪𝗂𝗃. We're in 𝗑𝗪𝗂𝗃 season now. It's November 30th to December 17th. And we want this part of our being not blocked, because that could create unwellness. So Kundalini, fetal cells, tailbone, just all that area. And then the base of the brain, the golden chalice. The base of the brain is actually connected to the 8th and 9th chakra, which is an infinity spiral. This is why this is such an activating sign. It's ruled by ether, connects us to the 0-point unified field, connects us to the mother energy, and it's all about the breath of life. So as we talk about the North Node in Gemini, and the fact that the breath of life and the quintessence is all about the divine mother, well, the suppression of truth, stunted growth, and weakness in this area is what I feel has been making us vulnerable to any kind of disease at all. And that is the root of disease to me. It almost doesn't even matter where it comes from. We need to understand the patternings that make us vulnerable, and we need to understand the intent behind, or just the energy signature of a particular pathogen or virus. And we just need to gain greater understanding. It makes no sense to live in fear of disease when we should live in embracing it, of finding out who we truly are, getting to know ourselves through adversity, getting to know ourselves better. It's a temporary thing, but it's a part of a greater initiation. There's always going to, be potential symptomatic episodes that come with upgrades. So we need to stay empowered, because if we hand that power away, it might not work to our benefit. But absolutely, if you feel you need a doctor's help, or you feel you need to go to the hospital, definitely do that. Definitely not trying to encourage people to just rely solely on this, but exercising our intuition, developing our intuition is everything. Targeting of the breath of life. Okay, this is definitely a targeting period of this whole idea of 𝗑𝗪𝗂𝗃, ruled by the ether, the quintessence, the mother energy, and our ability to really breathe and be activated by these codes. So they're really, really afraid of us connecting to the divine mother, our divine blueprint, mother, father, God, Christ, Sophia, child, with an extra attention on Mother Earth, just because the planetary consciousness, Gaia, and our relationship to the mother energy that has been so targeted and undermined and damaged on a DNA level, our mitochondrial DNA, which is actually connected to the ether, the mitochondrial DNA is connected to the mother. So I go in great depth about this kind of stuff in my presentations, but it is a weaponization of this time of awakening, Aquarian age, ascension cycle. And it's totally trying to turn us in an opposite direction. And we know that that's the tactic that they use. But I know I've shared this before. Just get a look at this. Go back and maybe read the whole thing. I'm not going to read like the whole thing, but 𝗣𝗂𝗍𝗂 ruled by Chiron. So we have to be able to face our wounds, right? I just did a video recently talking pretty transparently about some of the things I just struggle with. And it's not always a good idea to struggle with things and be on camera. Sometimes it just comes out of left field. But this is what's been targeted, right? And we're in this window period. So if you feel that there's an amping up of psychic attack, or your dreams are kind of weird, or you're really, really feeling something's trying to get in your way, but like through the dream realms, or just, I mean, they have all kinds of tactics, you know, just really make sure to read this and stay in connection. This phase is the solar alignment with the cosmic ether, which is at the core of the galactic center, which represents pouring of healing spiritual waters into the earth and humanity from Mother God. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the mother principle and 𝗨𝗿𝗄𝗏 on earth. So when we connect into this energy, this is going to deprogram us. It helps us to move beyond the negative patterning and karma and control from negative alien agendas, which have influenced the constellations in the zodiac and, you know, different planetary bodies, as we look at things like the Saturn moon matrix and how that impacts us, our own ability to have balance. It's a very patriarchal program. Saturn, the false king of tyranny, and the artificial aspect of the moon, which has projected so much upon us as a humanity that we're not really able to easily stand in our authentic power or truth or true representation of divine masculine and feminine. The Saturn moon matrix is to totally disrupt that. And this particular time period can literally take that down and really begin to neutralize the dark weaponry. And if you just read, creatrix connectivity, pure transparent crystalline light, divine mother and the cleansing power of cosmic love, recoding the DNA, aligning to the cosmic heart of 𝗨𝗨 in Andromedan universal center. So, I mean, this all screams to me Lionsgate, or not Lionsgate, Lion's Mane, 𝗨𝗨 connected to the, you know, lion energy, and just, you know, the cleansing of the blood, the breath, mitochondria, and particularly the DNA factor. What we are doing as a humanity right now is repairing our mitochondrial DNA and our connection to the divine mother. And this is a greater love story. And if we can really integrate these energies and surrender and breathe and just really, really take this in, this is probably one of the biggest deals and biggest opportunities for humanity to really make incredible positive changes where we'll really be able to take down the dark forces and disengage from the cabal and deep state stuff and do what's right by our children and future generations, and provide all these ways to heal and recover from any of the insults that might have been afflicted. It's a very, very confusing time. So when you feel blocks or resistances, it's just important to sit with it and just know that this whole other kind of energy is coming in that people aren't very used to, you know, and sometimes it scares people. It's very common for people to fear their power, fear the dark night of the soul, but sometimes even these great activations, it's overwhelming because it disengages us from all these things that are wanting to harvest and siphon our energies, to battery up and power up artificial timelines, and creating artificial personas through media and entertainment industries and all these different ways of creating sub-personalities. So we're not standing in our truth is sort of the name of the game. So we get addicted to the bait, and we're literally getting fused with that dark technology and feeding dark forces, dark entities. So I'll kind of leave it at that. We are in a Saturn square Uranus. I mentioned it a little bit. Square means challenge. Uranus is a very electrical energy. You were talking about electrical energy. Uranus is everything about the nervous system. So Saturn its lowest octave being tyranny and control, making a challenging aspect to Uranus, which is all about liberation and authenticity and truth and awakening. Here's the conflict we've been dealing with very much. And it is really rattling our nervous systems, because something, when our nervous energy is healthy and that electrical energy can flow throughout our system, we are really able to upgrade. We're very powerful, we're very creative, and the magnetic and electric, Pluto, Uranus, the electromagnetic spectrum, all gets expanded. The spectrum of frequency becomes much wider. The resources we are able to tap into are so much greater. But Saturn's like, I don't think so. No, we don't want that for humanity. So the false, lower, darker controller forces are doing all they can to throw us to the Saturn side of it all, to be locked up, mandated, under their control, so that we don't step into Uranus. So you can go back and kind of read this, but this is the great tension that arises when we need to break free from something. It's literally like we're energetically going through a breakup. The old paradigm is like a breakup. We're saying goodbye. We're getting a divorce. We're saying goodbye to the lower octaves of Saturn. We're gaining self-mastery. And for the diamond sun 0-point unified field, ether and the purifying energies of the aqua ray to be integrated and awoken within us, we have to contend with this metaphorical bad partner, the old Saturn, and do the work necessary to have the law of structure accommodate this. When we break this harmful relationship, we make room for true love. It's no different than a bad partner, an abusive narcissist beyond, or just friends that don't see you clearly. Like everything that really doesn't serve our ability to move forward and embrace true, authentic love, self-love, better relationships and partnerships. I mean, this is everything right now. So we can begin to undo all of this by paying attention to our health, our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, and say no every day to this old Saturn, this old paradigm. Don't allow yourself to be so exposed to it to the point where it infects your creative channels. That's what they want. And that's why we're constantly bombarded. And on social media, even just the news that they share, I mean, it's just like the biggest distraction. Sometimes they share things that are, related to like the Maxwell trial, but all in all, it's absolutely ridiculous. So go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, Laura, you were talking about the nerves and the nervous system and sort of the bombardment of it. And one thing, and the dark side of it, the dark side and the dark forces, what they're doing. St. John's wort, we've talked about this before, but this beautiful yellow flower, like you can see this, and this is just it just shows you the consciousness of that plant and the expression of it. And this one in particular, really beaming off those rays of light. And the Romans would actually the Greeks and Romans would actually place this plant around the statues of their gods in order to ward off evil spirits. So they knew St. John's and what it would do as a plant, and then also taking it internally, because internally it's balancing serotonin, it's balancing dopamine and noradrenaline. And so this is regulating a healthy mood and a healthy sense of well-being. So it really does help to balance out the nervous system. And with the decreasing light, in the Northern Hemisphere, because it's winter or coming up on winter, this relates to sun and light. And people commonly use St. John's wort in the fall and winter to support a healthy mood and outlook and happiness levels. So, this product that we have here, it's got the St. John's wort in it, and it's also got bacopa, which bacopa is like one of the most sacred herbs in Ayurveda. And I mean, it means, in Ayurveda, it's called Brahmi, which loosely translates to like God consciousness, or they call it the herb of grace, divine consciousness, whatever one wants to call it. But this bacopa does that because it's dilating the blood vessels in the brain, and it's actually helping to upregulate more of these growth factors called BDNF. And this, like nerve growth factor, is strengthening the nervous system. So a lot of kids and the youth in India will use bacopa because it's commonly used throughout studies, school, if someone's teaching, if they want to learn something new. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is very, very commonly used, and actually newborn babies are consecrated with it in the hope that it opens up their intellect for greater divine understanding and wisdom. So this
Really
product, yeah. So this product, I mean, it's just kind of tying my end up with everything. We started off talking about DNA and neurogenesis and how we as humans have more DNA in common with mushrooms and with plants, and then the power of this lion's mane mushroom and how it strengthens the nervous system and why that's important right now. And it's done through this process of neurogenesis. And this product here, the majestic mushrooms, we've got 5 different mushrooms in there, including the lion's mane. And so you stack that with this 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in this St. John's wort through this product. And it's a really powerful combination for the brain and the nervous system and other systems throughout the body, but specifically the brain and nervous system. And, putting this together today for this time, like these are, from my perspective, a couple of the biggest points to focus on is just strengthen the nervous system and do things that are going to continually help us to become our happiest, best selves. And, we're all working on it. And, plants, herbs, mushrooms, earthing, grounding, getting sunlight, all of that stuff helps. So this article, we'll put it in the description. People can read through it. And these products, these links right here are Laura's links. And so she'll get credit if someone does purchase them. But, this is the company that I own. And, we're doing very well with it. And we're helping a lot of people with a lot of very good things. And these are two of the more favorite ones that I have. And they sell well for us.
Yeah, this is excellent. So sometimes people are, frustrated about the money part, but I mean, these are really well priced. I mean, I've seen a lot of these kind of products, and they are pretty expensive on most companies would probably charge more. And the thing is, the whole bottle is filled. And the thing is, one has to realize we buy food, we go to the grocery store. I mean, we still purchase clothing here and there. And it's just a part of life, but why not give ourselves the blessing and the treat to invest in what's going to help us in the long term live a really healthy life, to where we can advance beyond this crazy BS and really step into something magnificent. And this is what we're here for. This is what it's all about. We have to have the curiosity and the desire and the willingness and the willpower and the self-love. And it's always been what I invest in. And I've loved these products. They've really, really done wonders. And I think I joked with you last time, some people have they collect shoes, or I have maybe 2 pairs, 3 pairs of shoes, but my freaking bathroom, if anybody wants to see what kind of collection habit I have, it's herbs, it's supplements. And so I wouldn't be working with a company that I didn't fully believe in, or if I wasn't consuming it myself, because I'm all about nutrition and herbs and wellness. So thank you. And let's see what else I have on my slides.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a really important thing to pull together and bring together. And I'm glad that we thought of this last time that we talked.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know that my nerves get rattled. I know that I constantly need something to help me bounce back.
Same here.
It's just so overwhelming. Everything is so overwhelming. And the weaponry and just the stress, the cortisol, all these different things, like we need all this extra support so much.
Yeah, definitely.
So Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius from 2020 to 2023. The control over stargates and earth grids, dark ritual abuses taking place, and how that has kept us in digression in 3D. Also the infiltration of our media and most power structures and the programming embedded in our culture we all need to unhook from. We all have to go through some sort of showdown with these forces of control and archonic attack and hold an override frequency. The micro experience reveals our unfoldment personally in our DNA in relationship to our unfoldment collectively, which is the macro, related to the stargates and the planetary grid network. So we are like a replica of that. If we are living in the archonic matrix, it's an overlay of the original one. We are feeding it, we are participating in it, and we're in relationship to it. We don't have to do that. The real relationship is just the similarity. I mean, we're like a replica. So our chakra systems are a part of the multidimensional cosmos, all the way down to the earth. We're rebuilding the tree of life template, the architecture of our DNA. It's grounded and it's got its branches open. And the true planetary grid network is the tree of life. And it's been impacted. So one could say, okay, that's the tree of knowledge and the journey of duality and good versus evil. Well, we have to gain self-knowledge to gain the upper hand over evil, to be the override frequency. And it's good to have all the support we can possibly get and things that will literally help regenerate and rebuild what damage has already been done. And not only is it just going to repair things on a physical level, everything else lines up, you know? The spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. I mean, because the physical is only a reminder of where some of the other systems might be off. We can't really have optimal physical health if we don't have optimal mental, emotional, or spiritual health. So it all supports one another, the symbiotic nature of it all. So psychospiritual warfare is radically increased when a person is entering the integration stages of 7, 8, 9D of the monadic spiritual triad, because this is when we begin to achieve hierogamos and ascension. This is what was lost in 7D Earth and also when Tiamat exploded. There was no separation from these higher energies before. So I go into great depth in my presentations. This is just a little small example of what people might be experiencing, the psychospiritual warfare. We're certainly experiencing it on a collective level, because once we start to go into 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and beyond, they really don't have a grip on us. The Milky Way system is a fallen system, and we've only really learned about the 7 chakras. When we begin to move beyond the 7 chakras, that's where it gets tricky. And that's where people feel spiritually attacked. A lot of dark rituals and a lot of things and tactics they have are really to make it hard to cross that threshold. And what it can do to a person, it can make them feel very defeated, very depressed, or like they're doing it wrong. But sometimes it's a sign that you're doing it right. When you get attacked, you just have to not take it too personally. And you know, there it is. And some of this information from Lisa Renee, Ascension Glossary. So morphogenetic chakras begin to galactivate identity to multiple awareness of star intelligences, other identities, and lifetimes. As you can see, the chakra 8 and 9 corresponds to also 𝗑𝗨𝗪, because in the picture I showed you, 𝗑𝗨𝗪 talked about the base of the skull, base of the brain. And this has been under attack. And the sun just started moving through 𝗑𝗨𝗪 in 2010. So this is what Ascension is all about, the return of the mother. And it's something we're being activated to embody within ourselves, because we are the shift. So if you notice, you know, it's all based in male-female balance and integration of polarity. So if you see it as a love story, some of this information might not go over your head. It's a little bit more relatable, like, oh, okay. You know, that's why I always use the metaphor of a breakup with the bad old paradigm, bad partner, get a divorce. This is what we want to embrace. We want to step into true love, the Christ-Sophia divine template, Christ consciousness, this beautiful love story that so many movies have archetypally played out in fairy tales, you know, where happily ever after, but after the dark night of the soul, after having to deal with the villains and the darkness and the creatures and the, you know, and the love is separated for a while, but the love is the glue that brings them back together, because that love is more powerful than death. And our love, can override all of this. Our love and connection to God's source, our love and connection to our own heart and soul, and our willingness to hold universal love for one another is absolutely what they don't want. We don't have to participate whatsoever. This is all in our divine inheritance. It's in our blueprint, and it will absolutely alchemize and neutralize the toxicity and the weaponry. And I believe it will nullify the mark of the beast and the Venus transits and all that kind of stuff. So having something that can just make it a little easier or a lot easier is so worth our while. We owe it to future generations. And how long have we been at this? I mean, some are just waking up, but some of us have been at it for a long time. And, you know, you might have had more awake lifetimes and other lifetimes. Doesn't matter. It's not a contest, but we are not going to end on a bad note. I refuse to accept this script. And I know you all can agree. And this is how we can best support ourselves. We support our physical body. Then our energy centers are able to integrate these greater transmissions coming through from the planetary consciousness and from source and from our own divine blueprint. And serious magic is going to happen, and powerful synchronicities that will help support your calling in life. Once you answer to your calling, it's like the physics changes. Once we're healing ourselves from higher dimensional energies, the physics are different. And the fact that we haven't really connected into the ether like this in quite a long time, this is the good news. This is the good news we need to hear, I feel. And this is just something to look at. I'm not going to read it all. But, you know, these are the initiatory planets. And when they're not being processed, when they're not being worked with, there's like the shadow side takes us into a bit of a challenging period. And that's where our outer society tends to take advantage of us. Here, have a pharmaceutical. Here, you know, here's a quick fix, or here's a label we'll slap on you, or a project. You know, it's just, everybody knows how this is. And I shared this with you, I think, in a previous show we did. But anyway, a blocked Uranus energy, which is that electrical energy, is panic attacks, PTSD, nervous breakdown. We lose connection to higher guidance. So when a person's really struggling with that, sometimes it's not easy to just snap your fingers and be over it. But when you have something in your lifestyle that you're consuming and partaking in to help with these particular periods of initiation, where you might have been used to PTSD coming up, but it no longer comes up in the way that it has, something else is holding space for you, something medicinal, so that you can actually work through it and truly heal, instead of just, you know, grab anything to feel better. And this is the kind of support that medicinal mushrooms certainly have, and neurotropics. So like Neptune and Pisces, it's all about the creative imagination and consciousness freedom. The shadow side of that is running fear viruses, speaking those viruses, mind viruses, disinfo, confusion, all designed to infect our creative channels so that we enable and birth what we don't want to see. Men and women, we are constantly birthing, we're constantly creating. So this is about co-creating positive new beginnings. Yeah, well, let's do it right. And let's have each other's back. And let's clear this stuff and create the space. So it's not just with what we consume, it's just all the things that Lance listed that are super important: breath, sunlight, humor, laughter, creativity, all this stuff. And so there's no reason to feel like a victim or at the mercy of what we're seeing in the world out there. We have the power to co-create something far greater, because once everything's functioning, we're then the script writers, we're that override frequency, and it'll nullify anything that is a lesser vibration. So we are working on advancing our human vessels and consciousness. And just like Pluto and Capricorn, death of matrix control, that's the breakup with the bad partner. Then we go through a transformation. We might go through a tough period, but we don't want to allow ourselves to give too much reality to the shadow work. It is a reality. It's something we have to face, but it's not the end all goal. It's not going to hold you there. It's not our destiny. It's our destiny to move through it and get to the other side. So Pluto transits are some of the hardest ones. If you feel stuck, or you just, it's like dark night of the soul. Where's the help? Nobody's around. You feel abandoned even by God, you know, just like you're just in darkness. And that's why the crone archetype comes out of this darkness or underworld, through the light of wisdom, through being able to illuminate the light of wisdom from within, finding that inner light when you're surrounded by darkness. And that's why the initiation is so powerful. Anyway, so the shadow side of that is suicidal thoughts, heavy energy, darkness. You feel like you're stuck in the birth canal, but you don't even want to get out. You don't want to get out of bed. And what happens when we resist these initiations? We either have a doctor give us some drug or tell us how to relate to it. We get more further from ourselves. Our immune system is lowered. We get hijacked. Our energies get siphoned. We feel hopeless, lost, and confused. We're in survival. We're in that lower chakra reaction. We're reactive, and we're not very grounded. So right now, yes, we're on an ascension trajectory, and it's brutal, but it's all initiatory. These are all initiations. Once we get to the other side of it and we get to these higher properties, the higher octaves of all these planets, our organs, our physical bodies respond, and we're on our way. And I don't feel there's anything we can't heal or reverse. We need to increase our spiritual immune system, heal our mental and emotional bodies, and the physical will certainly follow. And we talked about epigenetics. I think this is my final slide, so I'll just end it here and then you share your thoughts. But yes, epigenetics, science is proving that our body's ability to heal and repair itself is greatly affected by our beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and intentions, for they have a profound vibrational effect upon our continually evolving genetic code. We're the programmers of the code. DNA activation is our software upgrade. So if we're putting things in our body that really, really help strengthen our minds, then we are going to be way more protected from the mind control, from the constant stress of any form of anxiety, whether it's the fear of the virus or just the upset that not enough people maybe woke up and why did it have to get this bad, and just the monkey mind, all these depleting things that we can't really escape. It's really important that we support our bodies, because the epiphanies, the breakthroughs will be that much greater, and we'll get over this hump. And I feel something amazing is on the horizon, because we got to just remember this. And yeah, if our mind's clear, if our mind is strong, if our nervous system is strong, it's like a light. Our auric field is strengthened. It's very hard to poke holes in somebody who is illuminating all this and recognizing all this. So I'd love you to share a few words about epigenetics and also our auric field, or anything that is coming through. And yeah, this is my final slide, but we are going to dip down into those lower frequencies. We are vulnerable to illness and imbalance and just a low quality of life when we slip down into those lower energies. But we don't want to judge that we slip from time to time. We want to recognize it when we're there and then lift ourselves back up and just do what we got to do, because this is what impacts our DNA, the epigenetics aspect of it. If we're in those lower beliefs and our vibration is low, that's when the AI and the mind control and the social engineering can really get its hooks in us. Or we block those things and hide it with drugs, alcohol, or other things, other unhealthy reactions. Like in the face of those lower emotions, sometimes it's really hard to be good to yourself. But anyway, that's a great discipline we can all help each other with. When you go down into those low vibrations, grab a smoothie, eat some mushrooms, laugh, and get yourself right back up there. And just watch out for some of those other decisions that can make life a little harder and worse. So I'll leave it at that.
Laura, I want to touch on something you said about the epigenetics and the nervous system and strengthening it. So there's this 𝗬𝗏𝗏 who lived some years ago, and he has this quote that I absolutely love. And it's, what I want is muscles of iron and nerves of steel, inside which dwells a mind of the same material as that of which the thunderbolt is made. And to me, that's all about strengthening the nervous system and tapping into that source, that God energy that's coming down. This is how our bodies communicate, is the nervous system. It's the electricity, like Uranus, like you're saying. And just doing what we can to optimize the nervous system is of utmost importance right now.
It so much is. Uranus making a difficult aspect to Saturn. I mean, they are such different energies. Saturn is all about restriction, rules, limitation, and Uranus is all about freedom, and it also rules rebels. It's just totally a free spirit. And rules and limitations aren't necessarily a bad thing, but if you're not the one making them and others are deciding something for your body, then that's not right, because we're going to have to work with the law of structure and limitation, but it can be healthy. Like, disciplines and responsibilities are a part of life. But if it's like, you're not allowed to do this, and this is what you have to put in your body, and there's no sovereignty connected to it, this is the struggle that we're dealing with. Because, disciplines and limitations can be, okay, I'm going to limit myself to, this is a bad example, like 2 cookies instead of 8, or I'm going to limit myself to 2 hours of walking time versus, it's like responsibilities and disciplines, going to bed at a decent hour, taking care of kids, driving them to school, there's plenty of reasons to have discipline and responsibilities that make us happy and healthy. But when it's coming from tyranny, when it's coming from control, we have to make sure we're not participating. And even if we have to participate, that we keep our consciousness and our minds free, and we focus on what we can do to optimize our mental health, our emotional health, and physical health. And these things will begin to fall away, because it will not find hospitality or won't find any entry point. You know, what they're trying to do is make our bioterrain very welcoming to archons, AI, and lower entities. But if we optimize all this, they're not going to be able to get in there. It's too high vibe. It's like kryptonite.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's what I wanted to share, Laura. I'll just share one more thing quick. So we'll put this article in Laura's description. People can look through it. And these are the products that we've been discussing: the majestic mushrooms and the nootropic focus.
That's just brilliant. It's so cool that like you are running this company and the EMF harmonizers. And I hope this all flowed well and you know, it helped all of you. Because eclipse energies last for about 6 months, everything we shared about the eclipse and some of these other aspects are not going anywhere anytime soon. This is a season of 𝗑𝗨𝗃, so this is a really important time to detox, purify. And with the major Mercury component and our need to overcome the mind control, we decided to do this show to expose you to the best and most supportive kind of supplements, and also a little bit more about the medical astrology aspects, so that, you know, maybe in the future you can correlate the two, or if you want to subscribe to some of my channels, maybe learn a bit more about it. It's certainly a hugely helpful tool. And then to be able to align what's going on in your chart with what would best support your health and well-being. And I think something can emerge with this company in being able to connect the dots between certain astrological aspects and good supportive nutrition to help you to overcome a challenge or a patterning that is impacting your health and happiness.
Well said, Laura. Well said.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Any final words, Lance? Thank you again, Lance. And have a great eclipse, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thanks, everyone.